enlightened Jews go study agriculture, move to the land of Israel, begin to plant, begin kibbutzim, and then eventually rebuild the nation and cause the ingathering. That's no less of a divine redemption, and it's even a better one because it's the redemption that we're part of. And all things in Judaism are supposed to be a partnership between man and God. Now, what I wanted to suggest this evening is that although he presents the redemption from Egypt as the passive redemption, the redemption in which the people of Israel do not take part, rather just benefit from, I want to question it. Upon looking at the story of the final night in Egypt, the big night where God kills all the firstborns, and we do the first cool little Seder. It's a fascinating evening. It's an evening that while God's commanding us what to do, he's also commanding us how to commemorate it forever and ever. This night is going to be the night that defines our narrative, that defines who we are as people. This will be the story that we will tell forever. And if you look at the instructions, what are they? First of all, take the sheep. A few days earlier, the sheep, which are the deity of Egypt, which has been established in a few places in the Torah itself, take it, and on the night of the redemption, on the night that I will come and do the final miracle, slaughter them in public. Basically show your masters, you don't care about Egyptian culture, you are rebelling. And then how do you eat this offering, the sacrifice? With your belt on, with your bag packed, on your way out. Do you realize what's going on here? Even though we like to think of the first Seder night, as the ultimate divine redemption, the ultimate passive redemption, not passive at all. We, the slaves, have to rebel against our masters. We, the slaves, have to pack our bags and get ready to go. Arguably, once we've done that, even if God wouldn't have come, swooped down, and killed the firstborn, we weren't slaves anymore. We already would have been redeemed. And I firmly believe that that is the true, when it comes to our redemption, but in general, when it comes to any part of Jewish life, that is the proper balance between faith and action. The action will always have to be yours. Doing the right thing, doing the thing that has to happen, if it's paying your worker, if it's helping the needy, if it's, avoiding temptation, and if it's leaving the bondage of your master, of being a slave, that's always going to have to be your decision and your action. Where faith comes in is the belief that if you're doing what's right, if you're doing what's correct, and you do it in all these smart ways, God will let it happen. And I guess that's the constant tandem, and that's what creates the ultimate redemption. And that's what I wanted to share with you guys this evening. Now, I'm going to accept questions on the idea that I just said. I will accept any other questions regarding Passover this year and any year. Go for it.
Menashe, you have a question? Elozai, Itiel, Ora, Daniel. A question for this Pessach. You said before you have a few questions you wanted to ask. There's opportunity here. Ora?
I'm here. Is there any need repeating the question? Because I think you addressed it then.
Ora, do you want to ask the question you spoke about before?
Okay, so I guess I have to repeat it then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here is the question. Because Pesach this year falls on Motzei Shabbat, we should stop eating chametz by, on Shabbat morning.
Correct.
In the morning, yes. And the problem we are having is in my synagogue, they said because usually the morning shacharit stays up to like 12 or 1 p.m. in the afternoon on Shabbat. And no matter how you try to rush the prayer, it stays till 12 or 1 p.m. So at the end of the day, we find that we are taking the challah by 12:1, which is late for taking any chametz related food for the year. So the synagogue agreed not to make challah and instead use the matzah for kiddush after prayers. And I'm asking, is this acceptable?
Very, very good question, because on one hand, at that point, the challah is not an option, of course. But on the other hand, we know that there's a rabbinical ordinance not to consume matzah the whole month of Nisan, or at very least the day or two before Pesach, in order for the matzah in the evening to be special and exciting. So the answer will have a few parts. A, if when poised between a few different options, one of them is not to have your Seudat Shabbat, and the other one is to eat matzah. On Erev Pesach, it would appear that the obligation to have your Shabbat meal is more important than takes precedence over the ordinance not to eat matzah on the day before Pesach. So first of all, yes, it's acceptable, even if it's not ideal. For example, in the Israeli army, where they can't really have that much of an alternative for grain-based meals. Once the base is kosher for Pesach, even though it's a few days before Passover, all the meals will start to include matzot, even though under ideal circumstances that isn't acceptable. My personal opinion, and this is what I'm going to do in my home, is use egg matzah. Are you guys familiar with egg matzah?
No, we are not.
Okay, so I will explain. There is a product known as egg matzah, or in Hebrew matzah shira, literally rich matzah, which is basically matzah, meaning non-leavened bread, the hard thing that we eat. But instead of just including water and flour, it also has other ingredients. Like it could have eggs in it, or fruit juice, or wine. And you're not allowed to use that as your matzot for Seder night. But if you're having a meal with it, you make a motzi on it, and it's not chametz. So, in my opinion, the ideal thing to make to make kiddush with, to have the meal with, at 1 o'clock on Shabbat day is egg matzah.
I think it's very brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll pass that information across to the community. I think it's very brilliant. So that
Great. Anyone else has a question? Daniel, you have a question? Yes, Michael, do you unmute?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
Based on
Shalom.
one of us here, I hope you can hear me.
Shalom. Shalom.
Michael, here,
Can you hear
Menashe
me?
started to ask a question, so Menashe
Okay.
will ask, and then you will ask, if it's okay. Okay? Yes, Menashe, go on. Ask the question.
Okay. My question is on one of us here in the synagogue. He has a shop right and kind of a supermarket and sells chametz, bread and all that. So he has decided to be in the synagogue for the whole time. For the whole time, he's not going there, but he has non-Jewish people selling the stuff for him, So he's asking, is he permitted, like having the shop running throughout the week, but he doesn't go there? He stays in the shul for the whole 7 days. He doesn't go there, but he has non-Jewish people selling for him. So is it allowed, or is he to close up the shop for the whole week?
I understand. Okay, so the original, meaning the prohibition in the Torah, is bali yira'eh, bali matzeh. Basically, you may not see chametz in the quarters in which you're living, which would be so, and you may not. But you also, the other thing is, you may not benefit from chametz that you owned over Pesach. Theoretically, everything that you owned before Pesach had to have been destroyed on Erev Pesach, and therefore, and because of that, you may not benefit from chametz that you owned over Pesach. So theoretically, that is not okay. Meaning, on one hand, the fact that he's staying in the synagogue solves the problem of seeing the chametz, but it doesn't solve the problem of benefiting from the chametz you own. And this problem is an age-old issue. It first hit Jewish responsa in an era in Europe where Jews would often make their livelihood by owning taverns, bars, and they would have large barrels of beer, whiskey, and and ales, all things which are grain based and therefore chametz. And if they would have had to destroy all of their chametz, all of their alcohol on their Pesach, they would be poor the day after Pesach. And therefore, what's become customary and very, very widespread, even if questionable, is to do a token sale of the chametz, meaning your friend should sell the contents of the store to a non-Jew, to a Gentile, and normally it's done in a way where he could buy it right back the day after Passover. That's typical protocol.
Okay. All right. No problem. Tudaraba.
You're welcome, sir. Anybody else?
But wait, though, I have a question concerning what Menashe asked. If I heard you correctly, you said you sell the chametz to a non-Jew and then you buy it back after Pesach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a bit difficult over here because
very difficult.
it's very difficult over here. If you sell it to a non-Jew over here, you can't buy it back.
Oh, okay. That's a very good question. And so the simple answer is that often you never really the contract that you'll write with a non-Jew, and normally he's just doing this for you as a favor. But the contract you'll have with him is you'll say that the chametz is his now, but will return to you on the seventh on the day after Pesach, unless he pays like exorbitant sum of money, like $1 million or whatever. You have to word the contract in a way that unless he gives that large sum of money, the food will automatically return to your ownership the next day.
Okay.
It's important to say, if I can just say something, it's
what?
important to say in Nigeria, in Israel, what we do usually is agreement with people that know the Jewish people, okay, and they know the custom. So when you sell it, they know it's only for the aim of Pessach. So they don't go and use it. They sell it for a small amount. You do it for a contract. This is the chametz, and then they buy it off you back everything before. In Nigeria, if you do it, you have to make sure it sounds like you tell them. You make sure there's a contract that they say we're selling it because we're not allowed to have it on our house in Pesach, but we're selling it in order to buy it back straight after Pesach. So what does it mean? It means that you come, you speak to a person, you say, listen, you buy it off me, but on the contract, you don't go and use it up. After Pesach, we will buy it back. If you're allowed to do it, hrav, you tell me if yes or no, but just to make sure. It's not that you sell it and then you have to go and buy it before. You agree from before what is going to happen.
Okay. So if I'm just trying to get it all in all contexts.
Yes.
I know that most times when we make like for instance, I have chametz to sell, and I have a friend who knows that I'm Jewish and this is why I want to do this. But so that he or she does not feel cheated or feel very uncomfortable, and I say instead of me to sell this okay, so let me use a currency that is well known. Instead of me to sell this for, I sell it to the person at $5. Then when I want to
Yeah.
buy it back from the person, I tell the person, I give the person gives me $5 and takes the chametz. Then after the holiday, I pay the person $3 and take it back. So which means that, no, sorry, I pay the person $8 and take it back, which means I have given the person $3 so that
Correct. Okay.
he feels he has gained something for holding on to the chametz for me for a while. That way he doesn't feel cheated and he doesn't feel uncomfortable. Can one do that?
Yes.
Okay.
But it also has to be clear that theoretically, if he wants to, he can run off the chametz. It shouldn't happen, but the sale has to be real enough contractually that if he wants to, he can keep. But at the same time, what you're suggesting would work. Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to now address Shlomo's question from the chat. He asked about if we have in Israel kosher Pessac, and because he mentioned that they have with a bottle with a yellow cap or something. So it reminds me, I grew up in the United States of America, and over there, people would be excited all year for the Coca-Cola that has the KP symbol on it, which means kosher vessel. Why was everybody so excited? Because in the United States, for the past several decades, they sweeten Coca-Cola with high fructose corn syrup, which is cheaper but doesn't taste as good. And on Pesach, because most of the American Jews are Ashkenazi and do not consume legumes, do not consume kitniot, including corn, Coca-Cola has to make a run of kosher Pesach Coca-Cola that sweetens the Coke with sugar as opposed to high fructose corn syrup. In Israel, however, because the whole country, for the most part, is keeping Passover. So most of the cola coming to the supermarket now will all be kosher Passover, but will also be clearly marked. But also in Israel, they use sugar all year round, so there isn't actually a difference in the recipe between Coca-Cola for Passover and Coca-Cola not for Passover. Any further questions?
Yes, I have a brief one. My question now is, but perchance I said perchance I'm baking a matzah on Kol HaMoed. Now, and one of them exceeds the actual time that it's that I'm supposed to have baked it. How do I go about it? Do I just discard it and continue the baking, or I stop entirely?
I'm sorry, I'm not. I can't quite hear you.
I said during the Kol HaMoed.
Yes.
I'm making a matzah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, a homemade matzah. Now within the period I'm making it, and I actually the time normally 18 to 22 minutes. It exceeded that time. That one is chametz already. How do I go about it? Should I just discard it and stop baking, or I just continue?
Okay, so I will start with the story. A week ago, I was sitting at my family table with my wife, my parents, and my nephew, and I wanted to fool them all. I told them, the bread that we buy in the supermarket all year round isn't actually chametz. They said, why? I told them, well, because it's made in only 5 minutes, and and since it's less than 18 minutes, it should all be kosher Pessac. And I was trying to fool them, but I didn't succeed because they all told me, well, that's ridiculous, because once there's yeast in the dough, then 18 minutes ceases to be relevant. And why is that? And now let's go to the answer. 18 minutes is a precaution where even if the dough doesn't rise at all, once it's sitting for 18 minutes, you may no longer use it. You must assume out of caution that it might have risen. But if you see the dough actually rise to any capacity before 18 minutes, then destroy it immediately and anything that touched it.
Okay, תודה רבה.
Okay.
Shalom.
Michael, you wanted to ask a question.
Hello, Shalom.
Shalom.
Okay. Please, I didn't get you actually at the initial question that was asked.
Well, what? I didn't hear.
Hello, are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. Assuming that we do have our prayers before 12 o'clock, then
yes.
we have kala to eat. Can we go on with it? As we didn't bake it with fruit juice that you rightly said. And can we have it eat? Or then I want to, if at all we eat it, what about the declaration that was made before the Shabbat at this year's Pessac following Shabbat after Shabbat? And again, the other one is one of us says concerning somebody having a shop, right? That is a very big store. Does it says many things that contains chametz. I'm bringing it to a beer parlor. If somebody is having a beer parlor, that's majority of the drinks there are beers. So if I told the person hand it over because that scenario is hard in this part of country. Even if something like that happens, the deal happens when you want to come back to have your items, it becomes problem. If at all as a manager that he hand it over to, will it be acceptable? Thank you.
God.
And we spoke about this question.
Can you explain to me the question? I'm not sure I completely understood it.
Yeah, so we spoke about the question. He asked about can you sell the shop right to non-Jewish people? What can they do with what they have over there? So because we spoke about the question, Michael, it will be best for you to phone up Menashe and Nora after the lesson, phone them up, ask them what was the answer, and then we'll explain it to you. Okay, Michael? Okay.
Hello?
Menashe, did you hear me?
Okay. Menashe.
Yeah, I heard you.
Okay, so make sure, because this is the question you asked.
Michael, he said that maybe after now you phone me on Aura, and the answer will be given to you, because the question you asked is almost the same thing with the one I asked. So the answer is the same thing.
Okay, I mean the first question that I asked about if at all we pray early, that before the noon, are we permitted to eat the kala? And if it is yes, that we are permitted to eat the kala before noon on Shabbat, then what about the declaration made before the Shabbat comes in? That's my question, please.
So basically what you're asking is that if we declared the chametz,
all chametz that are
all
one
chametz,
I've seen and the one I've not seen.
Right.
Yeah.
But and then you go and you eat challah afterwards because you're still allowed to, and you're eating the meal
on Shabbat.
So then what does it mean by the declaration? Very good question. So if that's what you would do, then you're correct that the declaration would be null and void. However, what you're supposed to do when you make the declaration is make a t'nai, make a condition that everything that I've seen I have not seen in my house is all null and void, besides for, and then whatever you want to eat on Shabbat. Besides for the challah, besides for this bowl of pasta that I'm setting aside to consume on Shabbat morning. It has to be part of the declaration.
I get you right.
Wow, that's a nice answer.
Thank you. Exception.
Mishaya, today about for the question.
Thank you.
Okay, shalom.
Yes.
I want to ask a question. It's not based on the chametz and the challah, but this basically one of the things or one of the challenges we do have here in Nigeria, the additional days of the feast. You know, here in diaspora, 1 day extra, but in Eretz Israel, it remains the same. Like the Torah have said. So most of the times, it becomes a problem here, in the sense that the first day, which is supposed to be the Shabbat, now in diaspora, the first and the second day is the Shabbat.
Okay.
Now these right? I hope I'm right. That is for the diaspora, for us here in diaspora. The first and the second day is the Shabbat.
Okay, let's go with that for a second. What's the question?
Now the question is this: I am saying that most times it is we miscalculate, and at the end of the day the feast is supposed to be ending, most of us doesn't, in the course of time, we don't see it as a Shabbat anymore. Rather, it is the extra additional day. That is what we hold on, and we make. I don't know how to explain this. That's the that's the particular one we observe as the Shabbat. But the main, the one that is supposed to be, that is the one that's supposed to be the Shabbat. We most times we forget. Should I say we forget? And the reason for this is because of this additional day. So I am asking, is there still a need for us to observe the additional days? Things we've gotten our calendar. Everything is very clear to us right now. It's no longer like before when you have to, there was no calendar and all that. So these days, is it still important that we, those additional days? I don't know what your notion about it.
So this actually happens to be a question that is very near and dear to my heart, because as I've stated, I grew up in the United States. I made Aliyah when I was 10 with my parents, but all of my older siblings, who are all ultra-Orthodox Jews, they all still live in the diaspora, in Canada and North America, and in the United States, whatever. And so it often becomes kind of a point of discomfort whenever I go there to spend a holiday with them. The second day isn't Yom Tov for me, but I'm also not allowed to disrespect the tradition and desecrate Yom Tov in front of them. And when they come to visit me in Eretz Yisrael, they have to keep the second day. And it's often very uncomfortable for them because everybody around them are already, watching TV and driving their cars. And so I've studied this topic a lot because it's always seemed very intuitive to me that this ought to be canceled. Now, the short answer is that batla tam lo batla gzera, meaning that when the sages ordain something for a specific reason, even if that reason is no longer is actual, no longer exists, the ordinance still stands until the next Sanhedrin, the next High Court, will come and of course, it's only 2,000 years without a High Court, and it's a very frustrating topic, in general, because it comes up a lot. And so A, it could very well be that if there was a Sanhedrin today, they would. But B, the halacha is that you have to keep both days right now. And in the same respect that we're keeping the first day as a Shabbat because that is the halacha, that is the Jewish law, so is the second day, even if the reason for that being Jewish law is kind of outdated. Understood?
So basically, you're trying to say that the second day, the first day is very important, of course, Torahic, which is Shabbat. Then the second day, that is we in diaspora is supposed to keep at Shabbat. It's not that's as strict as the first day, isn't it?
Yeah, meaning by this point, the second day is just is binding as far as Jewish law, just like the first day, albeit with a special clause of Safek, which make certain small reasons. Yeah, so that's that. What else would I add to that? So yeah, that's my answer.
All right.
I have heard, and I find it completely outlandish, American rabbis who claim that even when the Messiah comes, Jews living all over the world will continue to keep 2 days, because it's not only because of the confusion as far as the date, but it's also something fundamentally good, the 2 days. But I personally find that opinion ridiculous.
Hrav, do you still have time?
Yeah, I can go.
Okay. Anybody has more questions? ETL, Gad.
Michael, do you have question?
No. I don't have any question.
Okay, thank you. Shalom.
Yes,
Hello,
Michael.
ask your question.
Okay, please, my question goes like this. There is a Torah injunction that says that a manzar will not be accepted in the congregation of the Jewish people. Then I want to ask, and if you want to relate it to English language, the similar, not really, manzar is a bastard, which is not the real meaning of it as Hebrew states. Then I want to see concerning a relationship for young guys that are in the cities and which may get married to people they meet around, which a proper knowledge of the background of the person in question are not being ascertained. So how do we go about it? If at all that somebody marries a woman gotten from a mamzarim, or got
Michael.
things that make somebody a mamzar, how do the
Michael.
person go about it? Thank you. Yeah, I'm hearing.
Maybe the best thing would be to write a question, because we were speaking about Pessac. So if there's any questions for Pessac,
Okay.
would be great. Okay.
Thank you.
Wait, then. The basic question is that if somebody marries a mamzer, then their offspring are mamzerim. Well, what's the question based on that?
Yeah. The question is for boys, young people that are in the city, which we get married to, get married, and a proper this thing is not being conducted. So if I thought the person happened to be a mamzar or a product from an incestuous relationship or forbidden relationship, what will be the state of those children? That's my question.
So in this marriage, basically there's a Jewish man and a non-Jewish woman, and a mamzer woman.
I didn't hear you.
Who are the two people in the marriage? One of them is a Jewish man, and the woman is not Jewish, or is mamzer. What's the question?
Okay. definitely the girl in question may not be Jewish, but after you contacted her and she agrees to follow you and become Jewish, and it happened that the person falling to Mamzar lineage. Okay, what would be the state of the children?
Okay, so if somebody wasn't keeping Judaism until now in the rabbinical sense, then technically they can't really be with Mamzer status, because Mamzer status only exists as a product of a man and a married woman who was married according to Jewish law. So if these are people that did not follow rabbinical Jewish law in the previous generation, then even if they have an illegitimate child, they do not have the status of Mamzerim. And if they're either Jews or converts, they are just regular Jews and have no problem.
Actually, I didn't get you right.
Well, what? Oh.
Actually, I didn't get you right.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it will be another time. I didn't get you right.
Okay, let me see. The definition of a mamzer, I'll try to explain one more time. The definition of a mamzer in Jewish law is a child who's the product of a union between a man and a married woman. The definition of married woman is married according to Jewish law. And therefore, if the person that you're marrying, which turns out to be a mamzer, in the previous generation was not technically Jewish or not following rabbinical Judaism, then they can't really be mamzerim, because in their community, there were no married women according to Jewish law. And therefore, this is either a Jew, if there's some way to prove that, or a convert. Either way, there's no problem. Understood?
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Any more questions? Okay. We just to conclude, just want to say really toda rabba. It's amazing what is happening here. It's really is a pleasure to study Torah just before Pessach and to have answer for questions. It is a gathering because of the Corona. We managed to do it with the Zoom. What we managed to do, and this gathering of the youth in Nigeria is basically amazing. Because what is happening from now after the lesson? They will take knowledge and go to the communities and teach and speak to each other about what has been here. So the thing is here is maybe it's a small number, but the effect will be much more stronger, because each one will go to his community and be a leader and a manhid in his own community, because they'll be the next people that are chazanim in the communities and the people that will conduct the Seder of Pessach. So really just to say toda rabba. It's not obvious. And באמת חג שמח.
Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you everybody who took part in it. It was very, very something.
תודה רבה.
I
just want to tell all of you.
Okay. Rabbi, for the wonderful time, for the knowledge you've shared with us. We'd say thank you very much. It's worthwhile. We've been actually meeting from time to time to discuss learn one or two new thoughts from each other. Thank you very much for the wonderful time you made to be with us today. And hrav, Pessac, Sameach.
Elusa, if I take you with your Abuja network, the hrav has left since.
Yes.
Huh?
hrav is usually.
I'm not seeing the screen, Abi. I just talking. See me, you're thinking.
Tell Ozai, the best thing will be write for me a message. You want to say thank you to the Baba, or each one of you, just write them on WhatsApp. You want to say thank you to the Baba for the lesson, and I will send it to him. Okay?
Oh, I heard you.
You heard me?
And I be one join and they talk to that about. I don't know if the man don't match. No issue.
Good night, everyone. God is a wonderful time. It's wonderful.
No, Allah.
Wonderful to do it and see you all. Thanks, Samia.
You are fast now.
Kaksamia.
God, you are fast now. What's the secret?
He's married now.
People work here.
Kachifo. Laila Tov.
Yeah, you've seen it.
Say, Gadi. Hello, Gadi.
Ella Tov, later out.
להתראות.
I said, Gadi, you are fast now. What's the secret?
What?
You man on go wine.
He's married now.
Okay, you wine.
I'll go wine.
You see, I'm married. I have a ring now.
Yeah.
I have a ring and we're talit.
Laila tov. Bye.
So